Holcomb. I'm Dean of Language Arts and Academic Foundations. Welcome to this exciting presentation. All right, yeah. You know, we hear a lot these days about immigration, and it's generally from a political context. This afternoon, you're going to hear an incredible story, and it's an immigration story. It's an immigrant story. And I urge you to think about it not in terms of politics, but in terms of humanity. Deogratias Niyizonkiza is originally from Burundi, Africa, arrived to New York City in the 90s through a harrowing set of circumstances. They've been chronicled in the 2009 New York Times bestseller, Strength in What Remains, written by Pulitzer Prize winning author Tracy Kidder. Deo is the recipient of numerous awards, including the People to People International Eisenhower Medallion, the Dalai Lama's Unsung Hero of Compassion Award, and Carnegie Organization's Great Immigrant Award. He currently serves as CEO of Village HealthWorks, which provides medical relief, education, and community empowerment in rural Burundi. He is a man of action, he's a man of justice, and he's a new friend to our campus community. So please help me to welcome Deogratias Niyizonkiza. Deo.
Good afternoon. Yes, it's good afternoon. I lost track of time because just a few days ago I was in Burundi, and I think it's 7 hours ahead, New York, and now you add 3 hours, so 10 hours, and I don't know. But thank you so very much, Dr. Holcomb, for this. Where are you? Oh, you are there. This lovely introduction. And I want to thank President and the Vice President for such a warm welcome. It is truly an honor to be here with you. I have been privileged, honored in so many ways to be asked to share my personal journey, part of it, because I'm still around. And I hope to have a much better journey than what I had in the past. But what I had in the past is not bad either, because I am alive. It's truly wonderful to be in front of faculty members who are working around the clock to make sure that they are helping students to learn about who they are. And I assume and I know for a fact that faculty members are also learning a lot from the students. So it's a wonderful environment to be in, because that kind of environment doesn't exist anywhere else. Once you are out of here, don't expect to have this kind of wonderful time that is about learn. I just spent an hour with a group of students in a program called Umoja. Is it Umoja or Umoja? It's actually a Swahili word. I thought that I was going to impress you, but everyone knew about it. So the joke was on me. It's a Swahili word that is spoken by some people in my country, in the part of East African community, and it comes originally from Arabic, and it's part of the Bantu languages. So it couldn't really have been a better beginning of my day here, to really meet with these incredibly wonderful students, and Charles, the professor, and Andrew, yes, to hear about their personal stories. Mine is not just mine. It's really our story. It's a humanitarian story. I was born in rural Burundi. How many people know a country called Burundi? I asked some students today, how many don't actually? Maybe that's much better. And please tell the truth. The truth is so hard to tell these days, but do. Well, Burundi is a very, very tiny country in East Africa. And I hope you know that there's a continent called Africa. And it's surrounded by Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo. On west and east and southeast is Tanzania. And north, there's Rwanda. Some of you know about Rwanda? Yes. In Rwanda and Burundi used to be one country. We speak same language, Kirundi. We're the same people, but we're different countries. And we were part of the Belgian Congo. We learned French, and we were told that it was not just the language, the most elegant language, but it was really the language of the civilized people. So if you were not really going to school and learn French, you were told that there was no way on earth you are going to become a civilized human being. See? So I was lucky to go to school, and my parents sent me to school. The first day of class, I was told to actually not speak Kirundi, which was the language that my father and my mother and my grandparents and everyone else spoke. And I put my heart into it, and later on, it's a story I'm going to share with you. When I came to New York City, I realized that actually very few people were able to speak French. And so my mind is going back, remembering how I learned French so hard, this language of Molière, the civilized people. And in New York City, I couldn't find someone who spoke French when I really needed to talk to someone. And I wondered whether I ended up in such an uncivilized world. So the joke was really on me, and long story short, it really was hard. And I was an immigrant who didn't know anything about this country, which gave me home and brought my dream of childhood back to life after surviving horror in Burundi in 1994, 93, and in Rwanda in 1994 during the genocide. It was a tough childhood, but it was at the same time a special childhood because even when we didn't have anything to eat at home, and when there was torrential rain and the roof is leaking and the drops of rain in our ears, we were told by our parents that you are not poor. You are not poor because we are here and we love you. And that was really enough for us to keep moving forward. Not allowed to talk about suffering or pain, but do something about it. So that was wonderful, but it was difficult because here you are a child, and you really are trying to figure out what life has to offer. But everything that is around you is challenging. You don't see any reason other than having your parents to actually have a hope. One of my earliest memories was when I was 5 years old. And I remember because a year after I started school, My parents had a lot of cows. We are in the mountains. And one day, it is pouring rain, late afternoon. So I was behind the cows. I'm trying to bring these cows back home. And I'm 5 years old. You know, when you are 5 years old in Burundi, you have responsibilities that are almost the same as your parents' responsibilities. So I tried hard to bring these hundreds of cows. In the rain, the wind was going against the direction of the cows. And they had what you would call umbrella here, a skin of a baby cow that died. And so the surface area was bigger than me, and the wind is going like this, and it was blowing me, I'm flying, going backward. So somehow I didn't want to lose it because my parent would kill me. But at the same time, if I don't let it go, I'm going to die. So I let it go, and I rushed back home crying for help. No one else was at home except my mother. And I found my mother in home and crying for help. I'm wondering what is going on. So I said, Mommy, please come and help. I didn't bring cows back home. And my mom said, I don't care, come and help me. She's in this little round hut, and I approached what was happening. She was in labor. I didn't know that my mother was even pregnant. And it's one of those things you don't ask, because being pregnant in Burundi is almost a death sentence. So what was I supposed to do? 5 years old. No one else is at home. What I was supposed to do was to get grasses and burn them so that she could be able to see enough and deliver. So I'm trying hard, I'm shaking, and I couldn't make a fire. And she's blaming me for all the sins of the world, how totally useless I am, how I almost smoked her to death because these grasses were so wet, and she's struggling. And I started crying, not because she was in pain, because she had just told me that I was killing her. And I'm just thinking about, what am I going to do when she's no longer? And I knew I had friends who were same age, who lost their mothers and became parents, children raising children. And that was really frightening. So I left. I left home, and I am just going around. I just killed my mother, and then I heard she called me back, and I went back home, and the flame was up, and the baby was out, and the baby's crying. And the next thing she was asking me was to get a razor, which I didn't know where she put it. It's there, There's no midwife, no doctor on the call, nothing. She's alone. She's on the floor, dirty, mud, that kind of environment. The umbilical cord, the baby still together with my mom. And I searched, and she moved around, and she grabbed this razor, which we use to cut fingernails and peel bananas, sticky and black and that kind of stuff, and she cut the umbilical cord by herself. So my next job was to just wipe blood. I do not remember one thing before that moment in my life. That was the beginning of my life, I can remember. And I said to myself, Deogratias, now you are alive. So a year later, I started school, and we had this school that was Catholic school. All these children are there trying to learn knowledge, and there was this Catholic priest, Belgian missionary, who was the headmaster. We are all entering, those who were admitted, and then I said, "Welcome to the room of civilization," in French. Bienvenue dans la salle de civilisation. And we were told to not speak again a word of French. And the classroom was packed like sardines with school children. By the end of the school year, it was half empty. What happened? Some children dropped out of school because their mothers died and they had to take care of their siblings. Or, in others, they had their parents who were suffering at home because of diseases, totally preventable diseases, treatable diseases, but there was no access to care. And other children simply got overwhelmed and ran away, disappeared. So by the end of the school year, the classroom was half empty. And other children died. So I lost so many friends. I don't have one friend of childhood from that time who's still alive today. Diseases, misery, and all kind of stuff, preventable. Why am I telling you all this? I am telling you all this because I have seen a lot of sufferings, not just in Burundi, but right here in this country, the United States of America, the great country, the great nation of great immigrants. And you wonder why is this? That has to do, in my opinion, with how much we don't really think about caring for the pain of the others and how we are so dwelling on me, me, me. And I'm also telling you this because my story is your story too. It's really humanity's story. And it's because I also believe that suffering should not have the last word when we have all the knowledge and everything that is available to actually alleviate it and prevent it. But we don't, mostly because we see the other as another. We have created all these boundaries. They are in our heads, but we don't look at each other as human beings who need love, like us, ourselves, or our families. And that's really the fundamental issue that I struggle with myself. Well, just from where I was in Burundi, I didn't ask myself, what am I going to do tomorrow? It was about wondering, am I going to die? Am I going to be next after losing my classmates? What should I do? So being in a Catholic school, we were mostly taught how to repent, how to talk about our sins. You know, you don't even know the difference between the good and the bad other than through pain. Why are we being told how to go in front of a priest and talk about our sins when you don't even know whether you are a boy or a girl yet? You know, you get my drift? So there are all these struggles. So I thought maybe I should become a priest. I should become a priest. I'm not yet a teenager. Or, God, could you give me the power to learn the knowledge so that I can save my friend's life? And one of my friends died in my hands when we were in 4th grade from pneumonia or who knows. So it was that kind of life, but I was very lucky to make it through, and I didn't give up, and I know quite a lot of people were brighter and stronger than I was, and they didn't make it. So it's really pure luck in some ways. But that luck must come with an obligation. So I made it and went to medical school in Burundi. Instead of joining the priesthood, I had no vocation. By that time, I noticed that. And then, after my 3 years of medical education, entering my 4th year, the president of Burundi was assassinated. And was assassinated by some Tutsis in Yami, and he was a Hutu. And then the entire country started burning. Militiamen came and destroyed the hospital where I was. I was able to hide under the bed of my room where I was staying. And those who locked themselves in the rooms, many were killed. So I left in the middle of the night and went to Rwanda. That was before the genocide in Rwanda, and 6 months after the genocide found me in Rwanda. So to cut a long story short, which you will read in Tracy's book, Strengthen What Remains. I hope you will have the opportunity to read that. I ended up coming to New York City. A friend of mine helped me to get out, and I'm leaving the country. I didn't care at all where I was going to be, but this friend who was half French, half Burundian, and they were leaving, going to France, said, you know, we are so connected, the French politics and the government confused about what's going on here in Burundi and Rwanda. See, you have this whole colonial legacy. Who gets involved, who intervenes, who doesn't? You never know. And he said, his father said, well, the only place you can go to and can hope to be safe is the United States of America. So I got a visa, and I came, didn't speak a word of English, didn't know that the Americans didn't speak French. And I went through Uganda, through Egypt, through Moscow, through the wonderful Irish country. I was at Shannon, where I thought I was in New York City. And somehow I managed to be told by a Russian journalist who spoke French, after being escorted by this security person at Shannon Airport when I was trying to figure out how to exit. And he saw my passport, trying to talk to me. I have a visa to go to New York, but I'm trying to exit Shannon Airport. And then I asked, well, do you know where you are? Yep, I know where I am. Where are you? New York. Are you sure? Yes, and you are trying to go to town. Yes. And he said, you have a long way to go. So they put him in one seat, and they kept me there. And I didn't know that I had 8 hours coming to New York. And then I landed, and someone who was translating from French to English at the immigration, helped me and hosted me in Harlem. And then after that, he left. He went back to Senegal, and I became homeless. I was homeless in Central Park, trying to figure out what my next life was going to be. And there was no such a thing, because back during this whole time, Burundi and in Rwanda, I was constantly busy trying to run away from danger. So I was exhausted physically. But when I was in the United States, my body was at rest, my mind started working, remembering everything I went through. And it was during that period that I had suicidal ideation many times. But I didn't kill myself. I struggled a lot and questioned my own survival, questioned everything that I believed to be true, everything that I had been taught, questioned even the very existence of the good God. I couldn't understand why people would be killed and people would kill and the world would be watching and nothing's happening to prevent that. People were watching on TV what was going on and nothing was happening to prevent this. And the war went on for over 13 years in Burundi. In Rwanda, it was 100 days. close to 1 million people were killed by machetes, not bombs or anything else. And the world is watching. But after that, the world went to deal with ashes and the trauma and all that. In Burundi, we are still struggling with a lot, what to do. But back to me, and not to me actually, to who we are and how lucky I have been. I managed to get a job at Deogratias and the Food Emporium in Manhattan, working from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and being paid $15 a day. But that money kept me going because I was living on the milk and the bread and carrying my tragedies and the trauma like luggage. I had no one to talk to. I had so much to share, but there was no one. Yes, I was born and raised poor, but I was not poor because I had friends around and I had my parents. And here I am, a stranger in public space, not able to speak, not able to figure out what to do. Well, it was that job that saved my life. That was the beginning of my new journey, which today made me come to Santa Rosa Junior College. Sharon McKenna, an ex-nun working at St. Thomas More Church, saw me struggling. I was delivering groceries, and is showing me the way to get into the church. You see these service deliveries in New York, on different places, these big buildings. So you couldn't actually use the main entrance. You would use these, service deliveries in the doors. What was really fascinating to me was, well, it says on the piece of paper of the grocery, these groceries going to 46th floor, but you are going down in the basement. And I felt it was punishment from hell. I was a walking skeleton. And I was carrying things that were heavier than I was, 22 years old. So she saw me and she trying to communicate, and I had managed to buy this pocket, tiny French-English dictionary. And I had started learning English on my own. And no one could understand what the heck I was talking about every time I opened my mouth to say one word. Mike would be Mickey, and, all kind of stuff. But Sharon spoke French. And then she started asking me where I was from. I got a little, I had tried hard to avoid people who were going to ask me where I was from because of what was going on in the country. And being a victim, it felt from outside that I was also a killer. So it's that shame and the stigma and the humiliation to hear that things so bad are happening in your own home. And you are being asked by people, some of them who knew what was going on, what's happening. So she didn't give up on me, and she called this famous professor of mathematics at UNC, who was Nigerian, and was hosted by Sharon Summit in Vermont when he was going to Brown University. And we got together, and Charlie Wolf and Nancy Wolf, who were Chukwu's professor at Brown, stayed in touch, and Sharon happened to contact them, and they invited me home, and they brought not only what was left in me, they collected the ashes in my mind and dream of childhood back together to life. I started learning the new language, these pen. I'm memorizing and writing down some of the words. I couldn't pronounce them right, and no one could understand. They found someone who spoke French, and they walked me through in life, and brought me back to life. They didn't speak the language, they didn't know where I was from, so strangers. And I use this word with caution and love, because I don't believe that We are strangers. And I went to college and grad school, but realized that I actually never left Burundi. And I left Burundi physically, but Burundi never left my mind. The horror, everything, never left my mind. But that was not enough. It was so important for me to think about two things. Why did I survive, if we can call this survival? Why did Charlie and Nancy and Sharon open their doors for a stranger and prevented me from dying? Well, I guess good people are attracted by what can we do to change someone's life, to change humanity. And other people are overwhelmed by the horrors that happen in the world without thinking what are the root causes of these problems. When we start alienating others, even at home, what happens to those people we are alienating? When we start speaking ill of others based on gender, on skin colors, on race, on national boundaries, what are we actually doing to ourselves? What kind of message are we giving to our children? Are we safer when we decide to bury our heads in the sand when the world is burning, or when we're causing problems to happen, or when we watch and we're capable of stopping a tragedy and we don't? I don't think that we're doing ourselves any favor. So I'm learning about Burundi. I didn't learn at all the history of Burundi. I learned it when I was in classroom in libraries at Columbia University in New York City. Every part of the history I learned when I was in Burundi was the European history. I didn't learn at all. I happened to understand about slavery when I was in New York City. I knew nothing about slavery. I spoke French more than I spoke my own native language in my own home country. That is a separation. That is a teaching people to hate each other. It's uprooting, and that's not good. Without a foundation, you can't, it's hard. It's hard to understand who you are. And so we should cherish who we are. We should be comfortable in our own skin. We should celebrate diversity. We should understand who we are as a human being and embrace that and be compassionate and do good. Wherever something bad is happening anywhere in the world, it should be our responsibility. It should not be about these Mexicans. It should not be about building walls. It should not be about anywhere. It should not be any of these things. And to begin with, that is against what this country is about, which is such a remarkable place. You may believe these or not, but I'm telling you, I have seen so many places, as many of you, if not all of you, have seen. You go to a place like Burundi, then when you come back, you realize that right here in this college where you are almost in heaven. But we take it for granted. We don't know. We don't know. And that ignorance is seriously a serious problem that is endangering everything that our ancestors and the people who worked so hard to get us where we are. One humanity, you know. And I know Dr. Holcomb's mom, who probably is here. She's from Mexico. She's as sweet, as caring, as hardworking as my own mother who gave me birth. And why can't we see this beauty? You know, you probably wouldn't be around with us without her. And so I went back to Burundi because I never believed that running away is the way to change things. Go back to Burundi and meet with my former enemies and talk to them. So this is what I would like to share with you. So you see where this is where I was raised. No homes. I went back in 2005. It was not like this when I left. There were a lot of people, and I'm back. I knew that the country had suffered. I had no idea that the country had been destroyed that way, my own village. I went to meet with the Minister of Health, went to this hospital where my mother was sick, and I found not patients, but prisoners in a place where they went to get hope, to be treated. Patients who are detained, incarcerated because they are unable to pay for substandard care. So hospitals become prisons where people go to watch themselves die. What am I going to do? I'm a medical student. Every friend of mine in the United States is telling me, you are out of your mind. What are you going to do over there? But I couldn't function after seeing what I saw. Go to New Hampshire and be comfortable. It was impossible. So I had to share my personal stories, experience, and journey with friends. And what do we do? So I wrote quite a lot of stuff, but a lot of people told me, well, if you get these out, you will be in trouble. So I went back and met with community members. These are Hutus and Tutsis, Burundians, human beings more than anything else. Human beings like every one of us. Human beings who love to be healthy, who love to send their children to school if there are schools, who would love to sit down and help others and share a beautiful conversation. But the conditions in which they were born and raised dehumanized them. The Hutus didn't take machetes and the Tutsis didn't take guns and machetes to kill each other because they were created by God to kill each other. It was the conditions that they were born and raised in, despair, that made everything happen the way it did. And I happen to really believe that. And so am I going to talk to them about that? No. Because I saw what was going on in these hospitals, and I realized, boy, how can anyone find happiness again, and what can we do in this kind of situation? We have to start somewhere. Make sure that people are healthy. We can bring friends, physicians, and others, and even giving just one pill at home instead of dying in a place where they are going to be humiliated. Let's just do something. So we sat down and we asked, so why can't we do it? Why can't we just make bricks? And we did. We did. This is the time when community members donated the land and they are dancing, and there are all these women who are carrying bricks and men are making bricks, former enemies. I have lost count of people who came to me and said, sorry for what happened. I give you one example. Is once this security guard 2 years ago, who came to me, and is such a dear friend, came to me and said, and is crying. I was just arriving, coming from the U.S., and they said, oh, I hate you so much. This is after 8 years. He said, Jackson, you hate me, what's going on? And he started crying, no, I love you. And then some of our colleagues are just pushing him away, and they left the vehicle, and they said, well, let's take a walk. Why do you hate me? And he said, to cut a long story short, I was raised to believe that people who are not of my ethnicity are people to kill. And you are not one of us. You are one of the people I could have burned alive. And you look at what is happening right here. Every time I see you, you remind me of the horror I committed. And the people I killed who could have been you or better than you. And look at where we are. So, victims. We are all victims of this kind of ideology, of this kind of conditions. and we should be aware of that. So I said, meanwhile, I'm just wondering, God, could he have killed this person or that person? So it was disturbing. I said, okay, look, we are all victims. We need to not leave the past, but figure out where we go from right here, right now, the present, so that your children, their children aren't going to talk about what they heard, not what they lived through. And this is why Village Health Works is so important in the lives of so many who are in this community. This is where they were dumping bricks, community members. We had no money at all. This is how we started. This is a year later, no money. Former enemies who not only became collaborators, but are friends, are the example, the inspiration. This place now, 10 years after, this place, they call it the Little America. Government officials, so many people, they come driving to see what is going on in this place. Landscaping, flowers, so manicured by people who, in the past, took machetes and they killed and they raped and did horror. So when things like that happen, the solution is not to drop bombs. The solution is not to say an eye for an eye, tooth for tooth. Why is it happening? Why are we so capable of this kind of destruction? How can we repair the world? And how do we, it's just like in medicine. You talk to a patient who is sick. You don't talk to someone else who knows the patient to provide medication. So approach people. If you have a friend, you have some issues going on, talk. Bite your tongue and go and shake hands. Say, I really would love to get a minute from you and to talk. You'll be surprised to know that what divides you is actually in your head. There's nothing that is for, real. So this is what we've been doing at Village Health Works, planning to inspire others in a place where so many thought no hope. Working with the people who, for so many years, thought these people were incapable of building anything good. We made the first road that links the highway from the capital city to this village with our own hands, no money. And we're maintaining this even though it's very hard. But it's becoming clear that these Hutus and Tutsis were not created to be bad. It's clear that it's the opportunities, just a tiny opportunity that will lift them up so that they could walk and then come back and help someone else. And we're seeing all these people really helping each other. This is our campus. If you remember that Google Earth map, now it's becoming a village. People are approaching and are really learning even how to protect the environment, planting trees, doing a lot of stuff. This is when we opened our clinic. We never closed our doors since. Conditions, this is how we started seeing patients, no electricity, but this is how we're working. And then our wonderful American friends getting together, bringing solar panels and electricity, and we're able to do a lot. These are community members or patients here. See, we do a lot of home visits. We find people dying from chronic diseases 5 months after. This is the same person. This is another human being found in lost children. This is how we give hope. This girl is going to schools, enjoying and learning about America, learning about the world, about our place, loving being alive and loving people who are visiting. And that is really the foundation of humanity, who we are. It's not by letting these conditions in places like anywhere really. This is the same human being. We lost him because of lack of stupid surgery. It's just like a shunt that would have saved someone. And, if we can afford to go to the moon, why can't we save someone like this? Well, these are the kind of conditions we see. These are the kind of conditions we see. Look at this guy. Look at this, and 1 month later. So, it's not just about health. Health is what? Food is medicine. Water, if it's clean, it's medicine. Education, it's medicine. It's prevention. So let's get together, share knowledge, and do good, and we can really change the world without looking at who is coming from Mexico or Syria or God knows what, or Burundi, you name it. So this is where we are heading, building really the infrastructure, physical infrastructure, so that people can be treated in a dignified environment. And education is so important. I've been begging Dr. Holcomb, even though he's on our education committee, to go and visit, and I'm inviting all of you. Maybe he will show up. I know he has a lot of responsibility, but these are the children, bottom up. Feed them, give them the right food, and teach them, put them in the hands of the right people. This is the school, but we are trying to really, clean up this environment. That's not where you want to send your children. And here's the design so that we can really, teach our children in a dignified environment, all this kind of design. So we're about all this. I hope that we have some time for questions, but my message here, my dear friends, the world is going through a lot, everywhere. But that a lot will continue in a bad way only if you let it happen. You should never let anyone define you, who you are, or what you are going to be. But you should get together and be that community, be that country that is about inclusiveness, that is about all of us getting together, lifting up the humanity and everyone, and we will sing hallelujah after we have achieved so much that is going to be our honor and our legacy. Thank you very much.
Deogratias, thank you, sir. Thank you, thank you. Is that incredible or what? It's incredible. We have about 10 minutes before 1. For those who are able to stick around, maybe we can ask a few questions. Right at 1 o'clock, we're going to walk over to the Bertolini Student Center, and we have a reception for this great guy. We're going to have a reception. It's open to the campus community, and there will be light refreshments there. So hopefully, after we conclude here, in about 10 minutes, you can walk over and continue the conversation. So let's take a few questions, and thank you for coming. Any questions? No? Yeah.
You said that we need to recognize our common humanity, and that bombs are not going to solve these problems. But isn't there a need for people to intervene during the 100 days in Rwanda or the 30 years in Burundi to stand between the killers and those who are being killed?
Yes. And what happened in Rwanda and in Burundi was not something that happened overnight. It was a whole process, and people knew about it. And that's exactly what I mean by saying that we should not create all these boundaries and let a tragedy happen in another place, because it's not in our backyard. Because one way or another, it's going to challenge us. And the truth is, I met, for example, President Clinton, who said, I had no idea of what was going on, and the only regret I have in my life is not intervening in Rwanda. And I told him, Mr. President, it's still happening in Burundi. And that was in 2005. We have the obligation to make sure that we reach out to everywhere where we see that there are problems. But as President Eisenhower, as you know, who was leading the, commander-in-chief during World War II, later on he said, it was not going to be about retaliation or about bombs and things like that. That is going to be solution to peace building. Yes, let's go there before our houses are on fire. And when our houses are on fire, yes, we sit down between the so-called enemies and friends and figure out why they're our enemies. Get closer to your enemies if you are going to solve anything. And yes, we should, the world, starting from Rwandans themselves and the Burundians themselves, should never have let that happen. And it's a responsibility. Everyone is a responsibility right here. Yeah, thank you. I'm expecting 10 more questions within 10 minutes. Yes?
Was there any American corporations specifically that helped support your purpose and what you're trying to carry out?
Yes, there is an American corporation, and it's the wonderful American individuals. 70% of our donors are individuals, and the rest small family foundations. But in the beginning, it was really me and my community, because everyone was afraid of going there. You know when they say success has 1,000 fathers, and an orphan is a failure, or failure is an orphan, something like that? Don't be afraid to go to where problems are. If you really make the right step forward, people will be watching you, will be behind you. So we have quite a lot of people who are behind us, and it's such an honor, it's such a privilege. But they really were not there in the beginning because we are risk averse. There's that, and also we are so overwhelmed by fear, and when the fear is overwhelming our minds, it's the worst enemy. And so don't let that happen. So I am so lucky, actually, we have a friend here, Jamie and others, who are really joining this, idea and vision to actually inspire the rest of the world in a country where hardly anyone, even Burundians, believe that there could be something that is going on in Burundi. And so link arms and do good. Yes?
Well, thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you.
In your program and in the village that you've been there, do you have a spiritual component that's a part of this? And if so, what and how?
So, yes, I am very spiritual because I believe in goodness and hope. Hope is such a good thing. Have you seen this movie, Shawshank's Redemption? Is that one? That's the one, right? Or It's a Wonderful Life? It's a Beautiful Life, or something like that. These are spiritual, beliefs, I think. In that movie, he said, well, there was one line where, Fred, I think, who was suffering and in prison for 49 years and said, told the other inmate, there's no such a thing as hope, because it was overwhelmed. I really highly recommend that you watch that movie if you haven't watched it. It is a movie that really stays in my mind even when I'm deeply sleeping. It really keeps me going. And then this other guy escaped and left a note. If you see this note outside, that means hope is working on you. And the note said, hope is a wonderful thing. And hope is a wonderful thing. And a wonderful thing never dies. I think it was like that. So to go back to your question, you want me to tell you the truth?
Yes.
In our program, we let people be free, whether they worship God or we are a country of Christians and others. But what we preach is that where there's health, there's hope. Keep hope alive. Do good. And that is what God asks us to do. Do good. Do not hurt anyone else. Be good. And that's really what I believe. I have a hard time being in organized religions. The reason is, there's nothing wrong with religion. It's who we are. There's one pastor in my community who turned out to have spent so many years controlling women who are trying to struggle. And every single day, he's in front of people preaching, reading the Bible, but turned out to be one of the most vicious human beings. I have seen churches destroyed with people inside, burned, and the priests were not only aware of that, but they called the killers. How am I going to sit in front or somewhere and listen to someone? Well, talking is cheap. It doesn't cost anything. But action. And I think our spirits or spiritual beliefs really are going to be seen through our good actions, good intentions.
Last question.
And that's what I believe. And in our programs, we have all that.
One last question. One last question, then we'll conclude and walk over to the reception. Yeah, go ahead, Derek.
Yes.
What could we as a community, or I as an individual, do to benefit the village going forward?
Oh, that is a wonderful question. What you can do, are you a student? Yes. You know, you have so much to offer that you are not aware of. You are healthy. You just heard the conversation I just shared with you. Study, 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 and succeed. If you do study and succeed and listen to your professors and talk to your friends around here to make sure that we have a peaceful world, to make sure that we should never let a mother die in childbirth because she has no access to C-section. We should never let all the children just so anywhere in the world die this way. That will be a service. That is our mission. You don't have to go to Burundi or at Village Earthworks. Spread that message. And if you can, come to visit us. Be our ambassadors. Join the movement so that we can truly inspire people. I know you are on student loans, or if you are like me, I know you have a lot to do, but I know you have friends. Talk about it and share that hope that is real, that is not just a hallucination. And that will be really wonderful. But we also have a school who really needed to learn English. And here you can teach. We have Skype. We have internet. We can get together and communicate with the children who are struggling to read, 30 minutes, 1 hour. I was with the president, your president, and Dr. Holcomb talking about, what can we do to help these future generations to learn? There is a reason why Boko Haram prevents women from going to school. There's a reason why ISIS is doing everything possible to prevent people from getting education. It's controlling. And we cannot, at Village Earthworks or anywhere like where we are, pretend that we are doing great work when we separate health and education. Because that's where actually prevention is, the right education. Interact with people, and that will be the best thing you can actually do to help us work together, help you work together as one humanity to actually create decency in dignified environment and honor human dignity. And let's stay in touch.
Deogratias. Thank you. Deogratias, thank you, sir. So from here, hopefully we can carry on the conversation over at the Bertolini Student Center. We have light refreshments and an open mixer. Thank you.